So the first presentation we are going to have has to do with the issues and questions that have come up as a result of the new agreements regarding the increase of salaries of graduate students, postdocs, and so on and so forth. So for that, we have representatives from HR, as well as budget and institutional analysis. And I know that they have time limitation. The representative from HR is Natasha Costa. I don't know if she's in yet.
Not yet.
Okay, she's not here yet. The representative from the budget and institutional analysis is Joe Borges. He is in, and he has other commitments at 9. So so maybe since Natasha is not in yet, Joe, do you want to start your talk, please? Thank you very much for being here.
Happy to. Thanks for having me. Let's see if this slide deck pops up. You able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So good morning for those who I haven't met, which I'm sure is a ton on this call. My name is Joe Borges. I'm a principal analyst in budget and institutional analysis, otherwise known as the Central Campus Budget Office. So Ahmad gave me an opportunity to just kind of check in and provide just some updates on what we're working on with regards to some of the potential financial impacts. I don't have any hardline, fast, locked-in numbers for you today, but I figured it's a good initial overview about some of the impacts. And I've got an example of like the GSR wage scale is probably the most the best information in terms of just giving you an idea of what might be coming down the road and then things we're working on. And then also if you have any information or areas that we might be able to help with. So the one thing I did leave off is I did want to announce or share with you, and putting in the link in the chat, is we do have our updated CBR rates that'll go into effect July 1. So that's what's on the screen there. I just put in the chat the link to our normal costing policy and analysis page that has that information. So I figured that was a good thing to share. That's the only thing in here that I can tell you for sure is that's what we know right now, and you should be able to reference that for any award updates moving forward July 1. The next thing I want to go through, and again, I got this big red block because I am not a labor relations or contract expert, but the wage scales, these potential salary impacts are certainly of great interest to everyone on this call. And then what I wanted to kind of highlight is what we're looking at and trying to better understand is this potential for what the increases might mean. And in a normal contract, we've got just general range increases that occur at, usually annual periods in a given year. So in this example, the tentative information we have is looking at roughly 6.4% would just be a normal escalator range increase for a particular individual. And then if an individual has enough experience to gain a step in the wage scale, well, then that's kind of represented with this another 7.75% using this example. So the challenge for you guys and for us in looking to provide you guidance down the road is trying to estimate what the population might be, because it could be as low as everybody just gets a range increase at 6.4. It could be as high as this 14.6 number if everybody in the employee population not only gets that range, but has enough experience to gain a step. All these dates, again, are preliminary, and we're working with labor relations and academic affairs to develop like solid guidance that we'll be able to provide to you moving forward in the future as soon as we possibly can. So I'm going to stop right there because that's kind of a bunch of information and numbers on the screen. If there's any kind of general questions, again, I can't speak to specific employees, and I don't even know what's locked in at this point. So please take this as an example, but a good idea that this is the challenge that we are facing as an institution, and in just terms of planning our awards down the road.
Thank you very much, Joe. Maybe before we get the questions, I see that Natasha is in now too. So Natasha, as I said before, is from HR, the Labor Relations Office. And she's here also to talk, maybe share with us some information regarding the background of these increases. Natasha?
Yes, so at the table, that was a main sticking point for the union when we went to mediation. So when we went to mediation, it was only the UCOP reps, the president, and the union. So these rates, the people at the table made very clear that this would be difficult for a lot of departments. So we understand that it's going to cause maybe some layoff or things like that. So if any department needs any help with that process, we're definitely here to help you along. And then Tracy Lade, who's the HR partner at Grad Studies, will be the one to contact first, and then we will make sure that it's compliant with the new contract.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you. So is there any question from the campus for our experts from HR and BIA?
I have a question. My name's Lori. I'm with the BFTV cluster. I'm not sure you can answer this, but this is what I'm struggling right now with understanding. If I have somebody who is a step 6 currently, we've gotten rid of step 1 through 3 and step 10. So do they stay as step 6? Do they go down 3 steps? How do I know what they're going to be now?
That's a good question. So they're step 6 now, and you're asking what they're going to be on the new scale once it becomes effective?
Correct. Since it used to be steps 1 through 10, now we have steps 1 through 6. So we now have to take 10 steps and combine them into the 6 that we have. I understand that 1 through 3 is gone so that we can't start that low. But what does that mean for someone? So someone who's a step 6 right now, if step 6 is the top, but they weren't a top when they were a step 6 currently, I'm trying to figure out how to budget, to rebudget for contracts that are already set to see what we can really afford now.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there was a chart made by UCOP, the person who really made the spreadsheet and everything about that movement. So I can get back to you on that. I'll make sure to write down your contact information, because the wage implementation has kind of been in Grad Studies court, like with Tracy Lade. So I'm not in the weeds on that particular question, but I can definitely get back to you.
Thank you very much.
This is Shannon, and I work with Lori and BFTV, and I'm just going to echo what's in the chat, which is that we all need the information because we're all dealing with GSRs in different grad groups, and every grad group has a different comp plan, and every comp plan puts students at a different step. So this isn't just Lori on her project. This is what we all need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perry, I think you are probably looking at the chat to see if something else comes in, and we have to share with the audience the questions.
Yeah, there's a number of questions in the chat. And the first one is, can you advise if the 50% GSR percentage will possibly be the starting point now versus prior different comp plans, various percentages?
Couldn't get off mute there for a second. I was searching for the unmute button. I wish I had more. So there is a wage implementation team, and I'm so sorry I don't have more information because we negotiated the rates, but then the actual implementation piece was more the wage implementation team. But I'm taking all these questions down and making sure to get an answer. And in terms of salary scales, I actually have the salary scales. Is there anyone on this call who needs those? for the new contract. I have all the ASEs, PX, RA. Okay.
This is Lori again. I'm just gonna ask. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. So, okay, come back. I've lost my train of thought. Sorry.
One question in the chat is, when do we cut in the new rates into our proposals?
Into the appointment letters. So because there's this weird gray area that's happening with, the rates don't take place until April 1st. I think the strategy at Grad Studies is to do it, to put in the appointment letter that this is your rate now, and this will be your rate upon implementation of the new contract. So that is a way to be compliant.
This is Shannon again, and I'll just chime in that most of us don't deal with appointment letters at all. We're dealing with budget estimates. So we're having to map out what we're asking sponsors to pay. And it's not a matter of a letter. The other thing I want to add is that we all sometimes round off to 50%. And as a lot of people on this call know, 50% is when benefits kick in. And so the convention for every grad group that we work with in BFTV is something below that, whether it's 49.9 or 49 or 46 or 47. And it would be really helpful to have that be published and known and sort of codified across the board. Can we just give everybody 49% and be done with it?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just going to throw out my thought, which is this is all wrapped together. Is I saw in the chat where I got distracted was it's per grad group. I went to the grad groups, and some of them still are from 2012. So it's not very helpful if it's per grad group if they don't publish what they're going to be doing. That's all I have.
I see all of obviously the chat information are very important, but I see a very important message from Tracy Lade there. Maybe you want to look at it. She put it in at 8:48. This is regarding the forum that would be coming up, this Friday for grad students or grad studies. There's information in there that Tracy has put in there. Thank you, Tracy. Because lots of these questions really are related to how graduate students would be, their salaries would be treated. So thank you, Tracy, for sharing that information.
And there's going to be, so we went through CBA training officially with UCOP yesterday, and there's going to be smaller CBA trainings for department specific or forms throughout UC Davis. So those invites will go out as well so that we can have more of these questions answered with wage, benefits, all these things, the actual implementation piece of it instead of the general language.
I see that Orbelina is having her hands raised. Orbelina?
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to chime in and just give a little bit of information that I do understand with this new contract as far as 50% appointments with GSRs. I do understand prior to this contract, when they were 50% or over for a period of time, they would accrue vacation time and it would be an extra expense in leave. I understand with the new contract, that is not the case, that they will have time off, but it will not be where they will be accruing. So it's more of how we deal with our postdocs currently and how they have leave time. And so that kind of thought process was also mine in thinking, if they are going to be 50%, will they be accruing? And the answer that I understand to date is no, it's not going to impact that. And I do understand that Tracy did also send out an email. I'm in the College of Ag, and I know that we received it in our cluster with the salary scales, and also giving us, the CAOs and others have been in meetings that have been given a little bit more direction as far as where our salary scales and steps are going to be based on our compensation plans. So for instance, we were step 8 in our programs. We are now step 5. So I thought I'd give just a little bit of that information if it's helpful at any.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orbelina. That's very helpful.
There's a question in the chat about will campus consider bridge funding?
I can answer that one. I'm working with Sarah Mangum and BIA in the Provost's office to develop a request for proposals for bridge funding. So our plan is to make bridge funding available. I don't know yet how much, what the requirements will be, when it will be, but we are working on it as fast as we can and hope to get that out in the next week or two.
Thank you, Denise. We are approaching 9 a.m. that Joe has to leave. So
I do see there's 2 people with their hands raised. Are we able to get their questions in before we move on?
go ahead. Carol, I see Carol there.
I think Aram had her hand up. I don't know if she put it back down.
I did, Denise, but but it's fine. I'll just chime in real quick. So for everybody who doesn't know me, I'm the Executive Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies. Thanks, Denise, for giving us a chance to audit this meeting. I don't have a lot of answers for you, but what I will say is the 50% information is correct. It will now be under PTO, and it will no longer be a situation that triggers vacation time. So there's going to be more information coming out about that from our office. In addition to that, I wanted to just give a context to the Friday forum that we'll be having that Tracy mentioned. Thanks, Tracy, for bringing that up. That is actually our usual graduate coordinators quarterly forum, and we'll be talking primarily about admissions and offer letters for graduate students because we're in the thick of admissions. So a lot of these things are actually going to be discussed in a different town hall. And so the target audience for that one is actually our grad coordinators. And we've invited the assistant deans and associate deans to attend to listen in. So just wanted to give a quick context that if you do decide, like you get a copy of the link and you want to come, everybody is welcome. But a lot of the things being discussed in this call is going to be, there's a lot of work that we need to do, and there'll be upcoming town halls and trainings and all of that good stuff. And just like Denise said, we'll be also coordinating with BIA and Office of Research, and we'll all be working together to do that. So I just wanted to kind of give that context.
Thank you, Aaron.
Carol, your hand's up.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
So I understand about the 50%, like Orbelina said, that we are doing the PTOs, but my understanding is the way that we balance out that PTO is the benefit rate is higher for our postdocs. So are benefit rates now going to go up for our graduate students in order to cover the PTO? Because how else is it going to be covered? And also needing to know this information because I'm working on 2 proposals right now that I'm trying to put together. And the longer we wait, and they're all due in February. So I kind of need some more guidance quickly on how this is going to come about. What are we using moving forward? Should we use the old rates still? Do we move forward with these new rates? Need some help here in figuring all of this stuff out sooner than later.
Okay.
Ashley Carr has her hand up.
Hi, I was wondering if you could provide some guidance as the Office of Research regarding the NIH cap for graduate students and whether or not we are getting conflicting information from our SPO analysts. Some are saying that we can make up the cap if we put the money in another another section and just charge the full grad student rate to the NIH grant, that's okay because it's under the postdoc level 0. But we have other SPO analysts that are telling us, no, we cannot do that. So can we have an official like ruling on what UC Davis's policy is about the NIH cap? Yes, about the NRSA cap.
We will try to come up with a better direction in that area. From my understanding, there is no one general rule if moving the money to a different category would work in every single situation. I am hoping that one of the leaders in our proposal team who is more familiar with this might be on in the forum right now, and she might be able to give us a little bit more information. I know there are some type of awards that allow that, and some might not, but I don't know enough. I don't know if Alisa is in.
Yes, hi, Ahmad, I'm here.
Go ahead, please.
So I think where the discrepancy is since we're not involved in the post-award accounting, it's really difficult for us to give you a definitive answer. We can tell you what the NIH guidelines state. The NIH guidelines state they won't pay more than the 0-level postdoc stipend, the NRSA rate, which right now is $54,840. And they consider GSR compensation to be salary, and they use full-time effort. So if your GSR can only work 50% on research projects, then you would use that 50% rate. So that plus the fringe plus tuition and fees should be less than $54,840, or they'll cut the difference at time. The policy from NIH says you can then re-budget to pay for actual costs, but only if your GSR compensation is still less than your entry-level postdoc at your university. So what the guidelines don't say is, does that mean our entry-level postdoc salary plus fringe? A lot of universities do interpret it that way. Does it mean, could you make an argument that within your lab, starting postdocs were at a certain rate and your GSRs are still below that? Perhaps. That's really a costing and policy issue. And so I can just tell you what the NIH rule is, that you shouldn't be rebudgeting to pay grad student compensation that equals more than your entry-level postdocs. And that's because NIH wants to say that postdocs make more than GSRs, right? Because they've earned their PhD. And so I think it's hard for us in sponsor programs, besides giving you that guidance, to tell you post-award what your entry-level postdoc compensation equals. And that is a broader discussion for campus. Does that help, Ashley?
Can I ask a little clarification on that? When you said the GSR rate, you included the fringe benefits, but you don't when you're looking at the postdoc?
The NIH rule says they won't award, like at time of award, more than $54,840, which is just the postdoc stipend for NRSA grants. So that's what they consider the 0-level postdoc. The policy for post-award accounting says you cannot rebudget to pay your GSRs more than postdoc compensation. It does not say what's comprised in postdoc compensation. So if you look at UCSF, they've interpreted that to mean salary plus fringe benefits for postdocs can't be, as equals the entry level postdoc compensation.
So when NIH is looking at it, when they're comparing the GSR, are they looking at the GSR rate and tuition, or are they also including the fringe benefits when they're comparing it to a postdoc, to that $54,840?
They're looking at GSR salary, fringe benefits, and tuition, and all of those added together have to be equal or less than $54,840 at time of award.
So to answer the part of the question regarding different maybe universities or campuses, seeing the part about what number you would use for postdoc to make that comparison, I wonder if our colleagues from accounting have information on that. Again, that's that's outside our office. James, do you know if? Do you know how?
I think, as Denise pointed out, there's some issues that we're trying to hash through. I can't give a definitive answer right at this moment. I think that, once we have nailed it down and you know, Alyssa, all of that is my understanding as well, that I think there are these questions, but again, I'm not prepared to really provide that definitive answer right now.
Fair. Okay.
So we can tell you from proposals that we really recommend when you're doing your budget justification to say, like, if you have a 50% postdoc, to say this is 50% time and that equals 100% effort. What we've seen NIH do, if you just put 6.0 months person months, is then they take that, they say, oh, your postdocs, I mean, your GSR is at 50%. So they take that 54,840 divided in half and then give you that amount, and they won't allow you to discuss it with them. So really want to be careful to say this is 100% effort for your GSRs. Because that's quite a budget cut. Sorry, Iman.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Alyssa, for making that clarification. We make sure that Ashley said that the perception is that different analysts in our office might give different responses, and as I said, that it depends on the situation. The response might be different. So we would talk internally to make sure that the responses will be consistent with what Alyssa is saying right now, and the fact that we don't know the answer to some of the questions, and the campus has to give us the guidelines. Okay. It is a little bit after 9. I think Joe has left us. Any other questions for HR for Natasha before we go to the next presentation? Okay. So how about if we have update from Francisco? He wants to talk about the transition from Kuali to Oracle. Francisco? From accounting. Francisco, your microphone is off.
Sorry, I need to get a presentation because I was going to share it and then suddenly I closed it.
While Francisco's getting set up, why don't I just jump in real quick? Good morning, everyone. Hey, I'm James Ringo, Director over at Contracts and Grants Accounting. If you don't know me, that's who I am. Big, interesting conversation this morning. I think there's a lot of open questions, so I'm going to go pretty light on direct updates from CGA. Really, all I guess I want to just remind folks is we are right now the last week of our effort reporting certification period. So you should be receiving lists of any, or your ERS coordinator should be receiving lists of folks that still need to get some reports done. Due date is Monday, I believe. So, if you have any questions, concerns, email CGA compliance at UC Davis. I think that email is, I'm sure that email is on the communications as well. We're looking forward to getting this cycle wrapped up here soon so we can let you all get back to other, I don't want to say more important things, but other important things like this new GSR salary situation. That's all. Francisco, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Take it away.
Okay. Good morning. I'm the Associate Director of Contracts and Grants Accounting, and I'm also the team lead for the migration to the new financial system, Aggie Enterprise. We're going to be migrating. The new system goes live January 1st, 2024. And at that time, there'll be awards that would still be active. And we need to migrate the information from Kuali to Oracle. So the purpose of this presentation is actually to make you aware how it's going to be done. And also for us to give some recommendations of things that should be done before we actually do that migration. Okay. Please interrupt me if you have any questions. Okay. So the Oracle structure with sponsored awards is the following. You have an award, which is basically the grant or the contract that you receive from the sponsor. Then you have the project or projects, which basically at least there'll be one project for each award. There could be multiple projects. And if an award is being divided among different departments, you might want to set up different projects. Something similar to what today we do with the expense accounts. And each award will have a contract. Okay. Now, this contract is not actually a contract. It's actually defines the billing plan. It defines whether an award will be monthly invoice, quarterly invoice. It will define the revenue plan, because one thing that Oracle does different than Kuali is that Oracle divides what is billing from what is revenue. Revenue is recognized when UC Davis has earned that income, which might be at the same time you invoice, but it might be at different times. This is something similar to the famous accruals that we do at the end of the year, at the end of a fiscal year. The only thing that in Oracle, you are doing it all the time. Okay. It defines the association with related sponsored projects. You can actually, in a contract, associate multiple projects that might be from different sponsors, and allows for monitoring of consolidated revenue and invoices at the award level. Okay. One thing that is important to understand is that the grant module in Oracle is really a subledger. And therefore, it will contain all the detail of the expenditures that have posted against an award and project. That information is summarized at the level of the general ledger. But if you want to know the detail, you have to go to PPM. PPM, which is the module for the awards, will keep the complete history of the award from the beginning till the end. And which is something different than in Kuali, because in Kuali, we were keeping all the information at the general ledger level. Here, we're not. Another factor that is important to keep in mind, that the income is recognized at the level of the award, but it only posts in the GL. So if you want to know what is the financial position of a project, you have to obtain that information from the GL. Okay? But that is too much detail for the moment. Okay. So what is going to happen when we migrate? Every Kuali award will become an Oracle grant. All Kuali awards that have a performance end date beyond January 1st, 2024 will be migrated, and they will become an Oracle grant. And you'll be able to identify them because all the awards will start with the letter K, indicating that it came from Kuali. Then followed by the chart and the fund number. So there will always be a way to relate the two. Also, we will migrate all awards that have not been closed, which means there is no final financial report or invoice. They haven't been processed. Awards that have overdraft or pending balances. But our objective should be to close as many awards in KFS in order to avoid having information in two different systems. because it becomes very burdensome to the account managers or to the fund managers to have to log in two systems to get all the information. And we want to minimize that. Yes. All new awards that are processed after January 1st, 2024 will not have that award number. What they will do is that they will use the CAIUS number, project number. Okay, so therefore there will not be any need to keep in mind that 820-1194 became the project 32F99, because both of them will have the same. Will be 820-1194. All that we're doing is dropping the dash in between. And that in itself is an improvement. Okay. For each award that is migrated, each expense account will become an Oracle project. Okay. So every KFS account associated to an open award will be migrated as an Oracle PPM project, regardless if the expense account has been expired or not. Okay. And the idea is that PPM Oracle needs the total amount of expenditures. So if we didn't migrate those accounts that have been expired, we wouldn't have the correct total. Awards that have committed cost share, an Oracle project will be created for monitoring the cost share. So if you have an award and that award has a project, which is what you're going to be invoicing the sponsor, but it has a cost share, there'll be an additional project where expenditure will be posted that will be used to report the cost share. Okay? The budgeted since Oracle requires that all projects have budget before expenditures come post, the budgeted cost share amount that will be entered will be in the category of supplies, and it will be exactly $1. Okay. The recommendation is to clean up all the KFS expense accounts with an overdraft in order to simplify the future. Negative budgets will not be migrated. Reviewing the data that is in Kuali, we have noticed that there are some budgets that instead of having a credit balance, have a debit balance. Oracle does not allow for migration negative budgets. So therefore, those accounts, expense accounts that have negative budgets, means maybe a negative budget in supplies. It balances correctly, but there is additional funding in another category and is balanced out with the negative budget in supplies. Cannot be migrated. Okay. Budgets in sub 8 will be migrated to the expenditure category supplies, but they will only be migrated if it is not a negative budget. There is a fairly good number of expense accounts that have negative budgets in unallocated but sub 8 budgets. Award billing information, it will be migrated to Oracle contract. Amount invoice will be migrated as a summarized total. We're not going to migrate invoice by invoice. If an award for $1 million, UC Davis has invoiced $300,000, what you'll see in PPM for that award, that $300,000 have been invoiced. Okay. Now, what happens with those invoices that have not been fully or only partially paid? They will also be migrated to Oracle, but they are not going to be migrated to the PPM module. They're going to be migrated to the accounts receivable module, which is the module that is responsible for monitoring collections and write-offs.
Francisco, I think we have a question. It might have been actually to the prior slide of this. I'm not sure when you put your hand up.
Okay.
Yes.
Alisa? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I had a question about negative budgets not being migrated. So if you have a cost category, you know, that's gone into the negative, does that mean prior to migration, we need to do BAs to balance the object categories then, so there's no negative?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do an example. Let's say that you have a negative budget of $5,000 in travel. And you need to eliminate it. So what you're going to do is you're going to assign $5,000 of budget to that and reduce it from another category, like supplies, maybe contracts. I cannot tell you what category.
Right.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Alisa?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Hi. Excuse me. Hi. This question is also related to the migration of accounts a negative balance.
Yeah.
What is the plan, or if you have one at this point? I know it's still a little bit early, but what's the plan for migrating balance sheet accounts for advanced payment subawards that's always in a state of overdraft?
Okay, that is something that has to be handled completely different, because Oracle only, PPM only manages expenditures. And when we give an advanced account to a sub-awardee, that is actually an asset for UC Davis, okay? So all I can tell you right now is that we're looking into it and trying to define what would be the best way to migrate that information, okay? You will always be able to capture it from the GL, because the GL will always have the project number, and you can download all the transactions using that project number, no matter whether it's an expense, an income, or an asset.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And thank you for bringing up the topic, because there's so much detail in this migration that sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. Any other questions so far? Yes, Lincoln.
Hi. So question is, like, when we have our clinical trials, there is delay between our invoicing and what we don't put the allocation. We normally don't put the allocation amount for the contract because it's not real. And so we will incur costs, and then as we go along, we'll invoice. So many times we have a negative, we have a overdraft because of delayed.
Okay, one thing is an overdraft, and another thing is a negative budget.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Negative budgets, you can see it readily in your decision support report at 55, because the amount in the budget column, instead of having a credit in the expenditure account, will have a debit.
Got it. Okay.
Does that clear your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, James, for reminding me. Okay, what are the important issues? Historical information pre-January 1st, 2024 will be summarized total at the budget category or expenditure type level. What is expenditure type? Is synonymous with what we call today the object code. Okay, is the natural account. And what we have done for the initial step of migrating to Oracle is that every natural account became an expenditure type. That can be modified in the future, but for the moment, every expenditure type is equal to a natural account. Users will be able to obtain detailed information and decision support for any activity prior to January 1st, 2024. The relationship between Kuali object code to PPM expenditure type might be one-to-one, but there are cases in which various object codes will be grouped to one expenditure type. Okay, if anybody is interested in seeing that, we do have what I would consider the pre-final mapping of object codes. Okay, and the reason I say that is because we're still tweaking with the chart of accounts. Oracle has various dates that control the activities of a project. For financial reporting and final invoice processing, the critical date is the Oracle close date, which could be the performance aid date or after, depending on the terms of the award and university guidelines. When we looked at Kuali, in Kuali, we only had a start and end date. In Oracle, it's a little different. You have the start and end date, but those are associated to the performance. You could actually have an initial date, which might be 90 days before, because the sponsor allows you to incur expenditures 90 days before the start date. And it will have a close date, which is the date everything has to be shut down. Okay? So we need to start getting used to that terminology. Okay. Oracle triggers a warning when there is an overdraft. Okay. Oracle allows you to, if you're going to put a requisition and you're in overdraft, it could actually tell you, forget it, you spend all your money. That doesn't go. But we opted for just the warning because we always have rebudgeting. We always have the possibility of additional funds. In the future, budgets will be approved by the project manager, which is today's UCD fiscal approval. No expenditure can post until this process has been done. Okay, so if Contracts and Grants Accounting sets up your award and puts the budget in, the budget will route to the project manager for approval. And let's say the person decided to quit and go somewhere else. We need to find a replacement because unless that document gets approved, no expenditures or requisitions can be done against that award. Okay. If an award has cost share, as I mentioned, a separate project will be set up to track the cost share expenditures. Okay. And that basically concludes today's presentation. The idea is to be doing a presentation on a monthly basis to make everybody aware of what's going to happen when we go into Oracle or Aggie Enterprise. Alisa, yes?
Yeah, I have a question about tracking cost share. So are we still going to be using the cost share, the current cost share, I forget what it's called, the reporting system or whatever? No. So, okay.
So what happens, let me give you an example. like you get an award and Professor X is going to charge to the award 20% of his salary and 5% is going to be cost share. So when you set him up in UC Path, you'll set him up that 20% of his salary is charged to the project that is paid by the sponsor. And 5% is charged to the cost share project. Okay? Later on, you need to move that 5% because something happened and you need to adjust it. You are able to do it. You just do it directly in UC Path and do the adjustment for it. Does that answer your question, Alisa?
Yeah, to a point. What about non-salary cost shares? I mean,
okay, let's say you're buying some supplies and part of the supplies are paid by the part that the sponsor pays. You charge that part to that project, to the project that is billed to the sponsor. And the other part, which is cost share, you charge it against the cost share project. And that can happen with any expenditure that you have there.
Okay.
Was I clear?
Yeah.
Okay. James, you were going to make a comment.
Well, I was just I think these are great questions and you're going to have all kinds of questions. There's a lot of, as Francisco said, there's still some refinements and processes being defined. And also, like Francisco mentioned, we're hoping for Francisco to join this group on a monthly basis and share just a little bit. This forum probably isn't the right place to do full-blown, training on how everything is going to happen, but just to give you some general ideas of what's happening. Francisco, are you still sharing? Can you stop sharing? I want to share something that you all might find helpful.
Okay. Elizabeth, you have a question.
Yes, I want to ask, so in the current cost share application, cost share reporting is, done by the department. We generate the reports, the guy certifies them. If we're not using that application after the transition to Aggie Enterprise, how will those cost share reports be generated? And how will the PI be able to review and certify them?
Okay. We're still discussing about the review part, okay? But the PI will be able to see all the expenditures that he has. We have prepared a report, which is called the PI report, where the PI can actually go, his administrator or the PI can actually look at all his projects, whether they are sponsored or not, whether they are what is famously called the faculty projects, the cost share, capital projects in one single report. Okay.
So the cost share reports will just be generated by CGA directly from Aggie Enterprise.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you have a project, supposedly those projects were charged for the correct amount, and that is what will be going to be used to report to the sponsor the cost share part.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of new approaches to things. I hope am I sharing my screen? Aggie Enterprise Town Hall.
Yes.
So I'm now dropping into the chat the link to that page, so you've got it. But timing might be good. I know many folks are already participating and gathering information different ways. But the Aggie Enterprise Town Hall is a great one. It's actually happening this afternoon. You might want to, if you have time this afternoon and you're not signed up, you get in there, and it's really very helpful information that's shared in those forums. And again, we'll continue sharing information out from the CGA perspective. Of course, this is a huge overall initiative, but very important things that you'll all want to know as far as how our contracts and grants are going to be run. Thank you very much, Francisco, for putting that together. And
Here's one more comment, James.
Oh, there. Okay, go ahead.
If you have any questions, or you have suggestions, please send me an email. I'll guarantee that I will answer. It might not be the answer that you want, but we are willing to contemplate and negotiate some things. Not everything. Okay, so thank you for your time and thank you for your questions. And like James says, they're very important. We need to start communicating this, so we become conscious of the big change that is going to occur.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both Francisco and James. Francisco, I am hoping that there won't be a test coming up at the end of this presentation, which I am not sure if I would pass. Let's see. We have a couple of other presentations. They would be fast and hopefully we'll finish them soon. Let's go to proposal. Kelly Gilmore, updates on the proposals, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen really quickly. Okay, so this morning I have 4 topics to discuss with you, but before I get into them, I want to let you know that throughout this brief presentation, you will see hyperlinks. And then on some of the slides, more specifically dealing with the data management and sharing policy of NIH, there's a lot of information. I know that's not optimal for presentations, but we will be sharing this slide deck with you all following this forum. So we wanted to make sure that we included all the detailed information that you will need going forward. So topic number 1, this is something that we're not seeing a lot, but we're seeing enough of. We want to make sure that everybody understands in Cayuse 424, please don't add any information to the summary and supporting document tabs of 424 if you're intending for them to be routed to the sponsor. Both of those tabs are for internal information only. So just please be aware of that as you're working in 424. I've circled a screenshot and read the sections that we want you to avoid, including sponsor specific information in. The next item number 2, is the NIH salary cap. I'm sure most of you probably received this notice already, but we wanted to make sure everybody knew that the salary cap increased to $212,100 effective January 1st of this year. And we have included the link to that notification in case anybody's interested in reading the official notice. Item number 3 pertains specifically to NSF document updates. They have updated the biographical sketch and current and pending support formats for proposals that are due on or after January 30th. So use of these new forms will be mandatory at that time. I also want to take this opportunity to remind everybody that effective October 23rd of this year, you will need to use Science CV for both of those documents. Okay, and last but not least, we want to touch upon the NIH data management and sharing policy impacts. SPO is not actually managing these policies. We're not creating these policies for campus PIs, but we want to make sure everybody understands the impacts to budgeting in your proposals that the data management and sharing policy will bring about. The background of it, for those who may be unfamiliar, is that NIH is requiring that all applicants planning to generate scientific data within their projects prepare a plan that describes how that data will be managed and shared. As you know, the NIH wants that information shared as broadly as possible. So for information on what constitutes scientific data, we've provided the NIH link. Typically it's specific to research projects, but may not apply to conferences and training. So we've given you both the link for the actual policy about data sharing and management and the link to the updated forms and instructions specific to data management. What we want you to be aware of with data management costs is that for a detailed budget, each budget must have a line item for data management and sharing costs, even if no funding is being requested for the project. When it comes to modular budgets, if the data management sharing plan is required in the application, you're going to need to provide a narrative justification for it as well. The justification itself for both types should be no more than half a page and clearly labeled as data management and sharing justification, immediately followed by the requested dollar amount. You need to include that even if no money is being requested. And if that's the case, you will just enter $0 in that section. So just please make sure that going forward, you're addressing these things in your budget. SPO will be looking for them. We'll be communicating the need to include them if for some reason it's omitted, but we wanted to make sure the information was there for you as you're preparing those budgets. And then this last slide pertaining to data management costs gives you the specific information and forms to be used when you're planning your budgets and your budget justifications. Again, we provided hyperlinks. I went through them all. The links are all active and working. So this should give you, we believe, all of the information that is needed to sufficiently prepare your budget documents for your proposals. And with that, thank you very much. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Kelly, I also wanted to add that currently there's an error in CAIUS when you enter your data management and sharing plans is 0. The way CAIUS 424 works is it actually, anything that has 0 cost, it eliminates it completely. So it's erroring out in ERA comments. So the CAIUS help desk has advised to put $1 under data management and sharing, even if you are not requesting costs. And then the proposal will go through. If this is concerning to any PIs, they can certainly put a note in the budget justification that says $0 requested, $1 entered on the budget forms for, to enable submission or something similar. But I just wanted to let you know that in order to submit through CAIUS 424 right now, you'll at least have to enter $1.
Thank you.
Is this document available somewhere?
Yes, we'll be sending it out to the listserv following the forum.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kelly and Alisa and Dan. Yeah, just at sometime later today, I would package these things, and we have some information from also HR that Natasha wanted to share. So it won't be immediately after the forum, but sometime hopefully later today, no later than tomorrow. I'll put it on the listserv and you would see it. Okay, let's speed forward. Let's go to, there was an issue coming up regarding offsite versus single IRBs. I think we have Nicole Walters, Associate Director of IRB Administration here. If Nicole is available, could you please take over the presentation?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you. Let me go ahead and share screen. Okay. So we were asked to give just a brief presentation regarding UC Davis IRB review requirements when there are outside sites or outside IRBs involved in the protocol or the research that's being conducted. So I tried to keep my messaging very simple in this case. Most of the time when you ask the IRB a question, the answer we always give is, it depends. In this case, I'm going to try to make it a little bit less wishy-washy and a more clear. So generally, we just start with kind of what the purview of the IRB is. When does any researcher need to submit to the UC Davis IRB? Before starting any human subjects research activities. So our role is oversight of human subjects research, the ethical review and legal requirements for conducting research involving human participants. So we always have to review a study before you start any human subjects research activities, always. So regardless of if it's being conducted at an outside site, if there's another institution involved, no matter what the other conditions are, if there is a UC Davis researcher conducting human subjects activities, it has to come to our office before it can start. So some more nuanced questions. What if the researcher is conducting research at an external site? Do you still need to submit to the IRB at UC Davis for approval? If the researcher is doing human subjects research as a part of their role at UC Davis, then they have to submit to us. So the outside sites will be something that we record in our research protocol and document that they're doing the research at outside sites. But if the research itself is related to their role at the institution, uses access they have based on their role at the institution or resources they have because of their position here, then the UC Davis IRB has to look at the protocol before any of the research activities begin with the human subjects. what if there's a research protocol that's been reviewed at another IRB and our UC Davis researcher is conducting a part of that protocol? You still have to submit to the UC Davis IRB every time, no matter what. In these cases, there are two different paths it might go down. So one might be that we issue approval for the protocol and we do our own internal review of the study, or it might be that we issue a reliance agreement that allows another IRB to take oversight of the study. But that is always something that happens through our office. It's not done by the research team and it's not automatic. It has to be documented and we have to have a record of every protocol in the system. So a little bit more information about this reliance process. A reliance agreement is something that allows it's a term to describe a partnership or agreement among different IRBs to rely on each other to provide IRB oversight for research studies. So these are put in place between IRBs. Investigators cannot initiate a reliance agreement with another IRB. They are not automatic. There are a lot of conditions that have to be in place when these agreements are signed, and we have to document them. Who's taking ownership of the ethical review of the protocol, right? So the agreement itself is something that the IRBs put in place that allow another institution to take oversight for UC Davis IRB, for example. The term we use when we have allowed another institution to take oversight is we seed review, excuse me. So seeding review describes when one institution yields the IRB review responsibility to another institution's IRB. It also is known as us relying on another IRB. So these terms are related to the reliance process, and this happens when there are multiple sites with multiple IRBs involved. But again, it always has to come to our office first, and we put this agreement in place that might allow another institution to take oversight. And there is still a whole submission process for a reliance study. So if there were a reliance agreement, it looks like this. You start by submitting a new project to the UC Davis IRB, and that will have an initial review application and a research protocol and consent documents and all of the things that are related to that study. When it comes to us, the application indicates that you are interested in putting a reliance agreement in place, and we do an assessment of if that's appropriate for this project. We have some great training materials on our website, and I will add links shortly that talk to why you might put a reliance agreement in place or why you might not and when they're appropriate. So the reliance team will look at that project and assess if the agreement is appropriate for that study. If it is, they'll issue or work out the agreement with the other institution's IRB, but we also have a local context review that we do here. So UCD policies are unique. They are specific to our institution. And so our IRB has to look and make sure that our local context requirements are reflected in that protocol and that consent form. And so there will be a process where we also look at those documents to make sure that they meet all of our requirements. After that, we will seed review, which allows the other IRB to take responsibility for the ethical review, the legal requirements of the study that are outside UC Davis's institutionally specific policies. And then the reviewing IRB can issue approval of the UC Davis site. So you can see that the reliance process is not omitting the UC Davis IRB's role. We are heavily involved in the startup of that study. Once the seeding review has happened, that allows the other IRB to take ownership of the review and the ongoing oversight. So it is a little bit burdensome in the beginning, but then usually after the study has been initiated, the submissions to our site do taper off. So these are some resources to help people as they're trying to navigate and understand this better. We have on our website a questionnaire. It's a Qualtrics survey actually that you can click through to assess if your study is a human subjects research project. Sometimes people have projects that do involve humans, but maybe are not a research project. Sometimes there's a research project that don't involve human participants or their identifiable information. So there's some nuance to if the study falls under the IRB's oversight, and that's a tool to assist people trying to assess that. After you've decided though, if the UC Davis IRB, or if it is a human subjects protocol, you always have to submit to us. And we have here some information about what what you can do to put a reliance agreement in place, and also some directions for submitting a new project to the UC Davis IRB. So I have a PDF of these slides. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat, and now I will take any questions.
Thank you, Nicole.
Hey, Nicole, from a proposals team perspective, I just had two things that we hear a lot questions. So I just was hoping that you could confirm them for everybody. And one is sometimes we have PIs come to us that, you know, it's right before the award, and this is generally for NIH, and they're asking for IRB approval. And our PI will say, well, the study's only, my sub-award's only doing the study out there in Wisconsin, and they have approval. So here's the IRB approval. And we said, well, you still need to go through our IRB for review, even if you're not specifically involved in the study, because you're PI of the overall award. So I'm hoping that you can confirm that.
That is, yes, absolutely. That's absolutely correct. It is actually a federal requirement that the primary awardee has IRB oversight at their institution. So having review at another institution, in that case, even if you are not actively conducting the human subjects portion of the research, if you are the primary awardee, we at UC Davis have to review that protocol.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
And then the other thing that we've heard from IRB lately, or departments have contacted IRB, is about your reliance fees. And so recently what we've, our understanding is if we're relying upon another IRB, then there's no reliance fees. There are only reliance fees applicable to our projects if other organizations are relying upon us. Is that your understanding as well?
Let me pull up our fees page and put it in the chat. The fee structure is fairly complicated, and so I don't want to try to report it all to you right now verbally, but we do have both a website that addresses all of the different fees and a Qualtrics tool that you can go through and answer, and it will tell you what fees might apply.
Okay.
Just give me a second to get to that page.
I'm not sure if it specifically states about who's relying upon whom. I think this is a question that we've been asked for your IRB, and it's fine if you don't have the answer. But I think the IRB reliance email, they've been saying, let's say we're a sub-award to, you know, UCSF, and UCSF will have the IRB and we'll rely upon them. The no fees will be applicable. If UCSF were to rely upon us, then those fees on the website would be applicable.
One sec. For some reason, my chat is disabled. Is that happening to everyone else or just me?
You cut to the chase on that issue. When we rely on another IRB, we're still conducting work, and we have to charge for that. It's a reduced rate, but it is still in there. So that information would be incorrect. Whenever there's a reliance, there is a fee, regardless of which way it's going. Occasionally we will waive them, but it has to be for a very extraordinary situation.
Okay, so I think that might be different guidance than we're receiving through your email question, you know, your email help desk.
Okay.
So I did just share screen so that I can show you the information that I was trying to put in the chat. Here in our reliance section of our website, we address if UC Davis reviews an external institution and the fees for UC Davis relying on an external institution. So they are specific to industry sponsored studies that were initiated after June 30th of 2020. But after that date, we do have a reliance fee in place for those studies.
So if we're relying on an external IRB, but it's not industry sponsored, I don't see a rate list. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just to say, the chat is disabled for quite a few of us, it seems.
Okay.
Yeah, my chat's showing is disabled as well.
Can we receive the IRB link in an email maybe?
So I would love to have that link, please.
We can add it to the email Ahmed sends out later today or tomorrow to the listserv.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't have a whole lot of time left. This is the first time in probably 3 years that we are using all of the 1.5 hour. We have 8 minutes left. Let's see, we didn't get an update from awards. I don't know, Grace, if you have something fast that you want to share? Or
yeah, so here's very fast. All right, USDA NEFA has a new website, and the USDA released their 5-year strategic plan. So if you have USDA funding, take a look at their strategic plan and look at their website. That's all.
That's good. That was fast. Perry, you want to say something about the training hours?
Yeah, hello, hi, everybody. I'm Perry King, the training officer in the Sponsor Programs Office. I want to let you all know that we have revised our recurring SPO office hours schedule. And for those who aren't aware, office hours are an opportunity for you to bring your questions on preparing and submitting proposals for extramural funding and to have them answered virtually via Zoom by our knowledgeable staff. And we are now providing this service the first Thursday of each month only between 10 and 11 a.m. And you can come bring your questions about Cayuse SP, Cayuse 424, subawards, even ERA Commons, and we will do our best to answer them all. Also, we have some upcoming trainings. We have a research administration workshop via Zoom tomorrow called Submitting Single Component Applications in NIH Assist. And that's from 9 to 11. And you can write SPO training at ucdavis.edu to request Zoom access info. In the chat, I'm going to put a link that has all the info I'm talking about. And let me just do that real quick. I think I may have enabled the chat for folks. It was hard to find. And then the last thing is we have a class on Thursday, February 2nd. It's through the UC Learning Center, and it's also via Zoom. It's titled Cayuse SP Awards and Post-Award Actions, and that's from 9 to 12. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Perry. Again, to emphasize, we do have a lot of online courses that Perry oversees from time to time. Each month we have them. Regarding the office hours that he mentioned, it's first Thursday of the month. Actually, we had it up to a couple of months ago. We had it twice a month, and not enough people showed up. And that's why we reduce it to once a month. If we get more interest, we would have, we would make them available more frequently. But I mean, the report was that we didn't have enough people showing up, and that wasn't really a good basically use of time of the trainers to sit around and nobody would show up.
And I would just add that we don't usually have 2 weeks to wait to ask a question. So having it even every other week or now every other week or once a month, we usually can't wait that long to ask a question. So
well, I think that
the challenge there.
That's a very good point. We can try to figure out if there is a way around that. If there is a question, obviously, that comes up, you always can send email to the proposal team and ask your question on a specific proposal.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what we do because we can't wait for a training session. We just need to ask a question.
Now, the training session is for more basically learning about things, how to do things, and more general. Okay, thank you. Let's see, 4 minutes before 10. Any last minute comments, questions? Hopefully this session was very productive and useful. And again, sometime today or tomorrow, I'll send the slides out. Okay. Last call.
I just wanted to share IRB also has office hours. They're weekly on Fridays. If you guys aren't aware of that, you can reach out to our help desk to get more information.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will meet you on the 4th Wednesday of February. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.